Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss working gang out there, putting it out for another week. We're excited today because we have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Elias Callejo. He's a network sales and marketing specialist at NXTLVL Marketing. He's been hard at the grind during COVID, and he's had tons of success motivating people to awake to the possibilities of what their money can do for them. And as they engage in new business opportunities, he's a teacher, a motivator, a technical advisor, and he's been able to hold it all down from his home on the Big Island while he's done some traveling throughout the mainland and internationally. Elias was born and raised in Kailua Kona. He's a family man. He's a performer. His family are avid. They developed and ran a business, a bakery in Kailua Kona for the longest time. He's an avid bodyboarder. You can't help but like Elias. He's got an infectious smile and a positive outlook on the world. We talk about the challenges of living and working in Hawaii for a young family who wants to stay and raise their family here. Even though the cost of living is significantly cheaper in the mainland, he's hesitant to leave his Hawaiian home and his ohana that he loves so dearly here. Please take a listen as we talk story with Mr. Elias Callejo. You're not going to want to miss this one. And mahalo nui to all the Hawaii Boss gang listening out there, watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. You can always search Hawaii Boss Podcast to find out more about us on our Twitter feed, Facebook, Instagram. Take a look. We're just trying to get the word out that the kind of folks like Elias can teach all of us a little bit of how to get things done, motivate folks to move, and do business all at the same time. So we're excited to have Elias. Welcome. Aloha, Hawaii Boss Podcast crew listening in. We are now live. We're going special. We're going all the way to the Big Island today over to Kona to visit our friend, Mr. Elias Callejo, who's in on the other side over there. Brother Elias, aloha.
How you doing, my friend? Aloha, aloha.
Aloha, aloha. So Elias is the sales and marketing specialist at NXTLVL Media. And we're very interested in finding out, how a kid from Kona, comes up and is able to really build a business in digital marketing and those kind of things. Where a guy like that gets his, where he sort of cut his teeth or, earned his marketing chops or whatever it is that he had to go out and do some things that we'll see what kind of energy it takes. We'll find out a little bit more of how to do it from Kona. Anyway, we are excited to have you here, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really excited. So tell me, you're from Kona, born and raised, your family, parents?
Born and raised. My grandmother was born in Kohala on the north end of the island.
Oh, bro, you froze up.
Born and raised, class of 97 over here. And so I'm born and raised and still raising my family, my 3 kids. My oldest is 18 years old, youngest is 15. So I have a 15-year-old, my daughter, my 16-year-old son, and then my oldest, he just turned 18 years old. So my wife and I are raising them here in Kona, and we're living life. They all surf, they all dive, they all fish, they love playing sports, and we've homeschooled them since they were about third grade. So we went that route, and it was very challenging, but definitely paid off for sure.
Well, awesome. I mean, we'll talk about that. You've got that your family and you're in Kona. It's not a easy proposition to keep your family in Kona, and so we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that. Maybe when you were younger, let's talk about that. When you were young, what was your first job coming up?
First job, man. Well, yeah, well, okay. So my very first job that my mom helped me get, actually, no, I actually hustled for this job on my own. I was I don't know what I was, but so my friend's family owned a tennis business, and they taught tennis at one of the resorts down here, and they had a summer camp. And so I was like, what, a freshman in high school, I think it was,
Uh-huh.
I would go around and I would fill up their ice water coolers, and I would, like, pick up all the tennis balls around the place, or
Sure.
just odd jobs here and there. But that was kind of like my summer money. But my first official job, I worked at Sack and Save here in Kona at the grocery store as a senior in high school, and I would
Okay.
get off the bus and right in town. And
Hmm.
so, I would wake up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, seminary, right? Early in the
Hmm.
morning. And then I'll go to school from there, come back home. And then at 3 o'clock or so, the bus would drop us off right in town, and I'd
Hmm.
walk over to work, and I was done with work. I think we worked till like 10:30 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I was gone from like 5 a.m. till like 10:30 at night,
That doesn't
but
leave a
I
lot
was
of time for homework, all your calculus homework, I guess.
well, let's just say I was grateful I passed high school. Let's just say that.
Well, sometimes, when you're working, that becomes a priority. I think when I was younger, having that first job and making sure that you were able to be employed and how to work was, finishing high school, of course, was sort of a minimum marker, but getting out and know how to work right away. What was that your parents' expectation of you too, to get out there and hustle it? And
Dude, it's really weird. My parents didn't really expect me to go out there and work. They never really had to tell me, like,
Mhm.
oh, Elias, hey, go get a job now. Hey, you're old enough to work legally.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to. I wanted my
Right.
own money. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn how it was like, what it was like to get a job.
Right.
Um, they never had to tell me at all.
Yeah.
And I started right around like junior year at high school, starting to get a little creative with making money and
Hmm.
learning how to make money on my own, actually, as my own
Hmm.
guy. You know what I mean? But yeah, so yeah, no, they didn't have to tell me. I wanted to do it. I wanted my
Well,
own
there's some
money.
advantages to having a job. There's some things that you can have some cash flow if you want to take a girl
That's
out.
right.
You have a little bit of money to take them on a date. You got a car that actually works and runs. There's
Yes.
some advantages. You start of moving up on a food chain a little bit as you start to have this sort of these resources.
Yep.
As far as again, and it feels good. Your confidence. You bring home a check and hey, I can make it in this world. It's not too bad of a feeling.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It gave me the flexibility. Like, I didn't have to go and bother my mom or my dad for money, in high
Sure.
school. It's not like come on, let's be honest. I was pushing wagons around, and,
Right.
I was like restocking eggs and whatever in the grocery store. So it's not like I was like rolling in the dough,
Right. Right.
but it taught me at a really young age, like, how to hustle. Like, when you're tired, when you got homework, all of that kind of stuff, like, how to hustle, what I mean? How to get
Right.
out there, make money, and also how to, budget. And so, it taught me those lessons from a really
Uh-huh.
young age, for sure.
So you got out of high school barely. We will talk about, yeah. Everyone, sometimes we look back at our high school career and go, that happened. But so anyway, you get out. You know how to make money. But Hawaii, and did you start as you tried to start making it and have a family? That the second save ain't gonna cut it. So how did you start feeling out? Did you look at school? Did you look at what sort of options started laid out in front of you? And how'd you make that choice as a guy from Hawaii and Kona trying to make it happen?
So it's really weird, but so this is kind of where the hurricane starts, right? So
Uh-huh.
I graduated high school, barely passed by the skin of my teeth,
Hmm.
but I'm glad I did. I think the only thing that saved me was that all of my teachers loved me. They laughed, and they're like, "Dude, you laugh." Like, we know, you got a good personality. I think I'm just
Uh-huh.
gonna
They're
let you
all
pass by the skin of your teeth just because of that.
Yeah,
But
make that work for you. Like they're like, you've got that talent. Keep working that. Yeah, work on it.
right. So so I knew, and well, so my senior year of high school, I know that, man, I'm just, my sister was going to BYU Hawaii at the time, and
Mhm.
she pulled about just every string she could. To get me to BYUH, and you needed a C average to do
Uh-huh.
it. And I was, so, lower
You were
than that, right?
borderline. You were on the cusp. We'll call
I was right on that would have been a miracle if I were right on the cusp of that.
it.
but and then I took the ACT test and I was like, I have like 15, 20 minutes into the ACT test. I was like, okay, forget it. I'm clocked out. Like and so after that, like the dean at BYUH said, okay, they told my sister, Noella, you know, sorry, but we just can't cut it. I don't think your brother is cut out for this. And so so I went to UH West, which was a campus that was right below my high school. So it was part of the University of Hawaii system, but
Sure.
I was just really just for like a year. I was
Right.
just kind of hanging out for like a year and a half until I turned 19 because I have a late birthday. So when I graduated, I was only like 17 years old. So I had to wait till I was like 19 to go on a mission. And I knew I was going to go on a mission once I turned 19.
So most people might not know that you're it's a missionary for the church you belong to.
Yep. So 2 years, I was that guy riding around in bikes.
With the black tag and letting everybody know.
100%, man. I was an English speaking missionary though. So I served in LA, but so anyhow, I knew that I was going to do that. So I knew I was just kind of filling some time. I was just kind of killing time. So I hit Eagle Scout. So I obtained the rank of Eagle Scout.
And that's a win. That's a win.
Yeah. So this is when, Boy Scouts, I was my whole life, right? I was all in. So I hit Eagle Scout. That's the highest rank. What is it? Like 0.5% of America's young men ever hit Eagle Scout and whatever. Sure. So yeah, I did that. At our Eagle Scout dinner, we each had sponsors. Well, my sponsor was the CEO of Queens Hospitals, so the whole hospital chain. Okay. And I remember we were having dinner. So here's my sponsor. We had dinner, and all of the Eagle Scouts, it was like a banquet dinner, honoring the Eagle Scouts that were there. And every Eagle Scout had their different sponsor. Mine was the CEO of this huge hospital chain in Oahu. And he sat down with me and he asked me, okay, so, over dinner, like, so what are you thinking about doing when you grow up? And I said, I don't know. I think I probably want to get into like I just made up something like, yeah, I'm going to get into like mechanical, or be like an architect, I think is what I said, and he said, oh, okay. Well, you ever consider like the medical profession? I said, no, not really, actually. He goes, oh, okay. Well, I mean, are you pretty strong in school? As far as I totally lied. I said, oh yeah.
Great.
And he goes, well, you might want to consider, I mean, nurses do really well in Hawaii. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, that's job security for sure. And I was like, oh, wow. From that conversation, in my mind somewhere, I told myself 110%, I am going to be a nurse. Just from that conversation. I never but right something there, I was so convinced.
Like, boom, you were in.
I was it, like, ray of, just a lightning bolt, boom, this is what I'm supposed to do. So, when I went to UH West, I get back home from the Eagle Scout dinner, I do the whole thing, and I start up in the the fall semester at UH West, and I start taking, I start going to community college, and after a couple of months, I get put on academic probation because at that point I realized that like the teachers didn't care. If I showed up to school or not, because I was still paying the money, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's Elias. He's so special. Come on over. We'll just let you,
I'm like, hey, these guys don't care if I don't show up to class. What's the deal with this, right? So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go surfing instead. I'll be out. And so I got put on academic probation. Super funny story, but I said to myself, whoa, I think I'm gonna have a really rough time trying to go to like pre-med school or whatever it is, right, to be a nurse. So I was 100% is interesting because I worked several jobs. So there was this big, like, I don't know if you remember, I don't think you were here back then, but so when I left, it was the 1999, 2000 that I was, 1998, 1999. I was a dancer for a luau show because I danced hula throughout high school. Right.
Okay.
And I danced, on this like this big everyone called it like this booze cruise, right? So
that thing sank when I moved
right
here about 8 years ago. I remember
so it's called the Captain Bean's dinner cruise. Like this mess, barge that would load you up with drinks. But anyhow, so I was a dancer on there. So I was doing that at night. In the morning, I was a bus boy, and this is all after I graduated high school. I was a bus boy. This is after I realized for sure that, okay, yeah, you know what? I don't think the community college thing is working out for me. You know what? I'd much rather make money. So I told my parents, you know, I'm going to make money so I can support myself and pay for myself to be on the mission. So I don't have to bother you guys with that, because we have to pay our own way, right, to go on the mission.
Okay.
So I was a bus boy at the Kona Village Resort. This is when it was still actually up, right? It got destroyed during the tsunami, the Japan tsunami. But I was a bus boy at the Kona Village Resort. And then I would get off of work from the Kona Village Resort as a busboy all day, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and straight from that I would jump onto the boat, and I was a dancer on there. We'd dance for the tourists or whatever, right? And then 3 or 4 times a week I was doing coconut painting classes over at a timeshare resort over in Kona, and I would go and hire guys to go pick dried coconuts for me. It's like my own enterprise. I'd hire my friends or my cousins or to go find nice, smooth, dry coconuts, and then the tourists would paint on them. I would charge the tourists X amount of dollars to paint these coconuts, and I was clocking it in, right? That, you know, because I didn't really need to do much. Just watch them paint.
You found some creative ways to sort of you know, pull all these things together. You started seeing that there's other ways besides, okay, I'm hustling as a busboy, I'm doing this, but then there's people pay money for the weirdest things. Now what, right?
Dude, they were paying back in 99, 98, they were paying $10, $12 a coconut. And they were the ones painting. I wasn't doing anything. I just figured, man, this is the best business ever. I just have my friends, my cousins going picking dried coconuts for me. I pay them like $1 a coconut, right? I'm charging these tourists $10 to $12 a coconut. I got 30 to 40 tourists paying me cash for these coconuts like 3-4 times a week. You know what I mean? And I just provide like the paints. And then it's cool because they were actually mailing them out in the post office just like that. So they'd mail it out to their friends, their cousins, whatever in the mainland. They middle of New York City or whatever, and it'd come in their mailbox just like that, like a coconut, right? So it was coconut.
You mail them for it too, huh? Mail it to them.
No, I didn't even mail it for them. Like they would mail it themselves, right? So I was like, man, I love this business. This is great. But anyhow, so I did that for like 1.5 years, and then when I finally January of '99, I reported into the Missionary Training Center in Utah. And that's when I started my mission. It's really interesting story though, because I was remember, right? Go back to like, I'm 100% medical field. I want to be a nurse. My very first area, once a week, every Tuesday, we did community service as escorts. Like we would escort people, and we'll, you know, when they're discharging them from their hospital rooms or whatever, and they going into their cars. So we were called escorts. We would do community service there at the Valley Presbyterian Hospital once a week. After the second week I was doing this, I said to myself, what the heck was I thinking? I am not cut out for this whole nursing thing. No way. And then it was at that point I realized, and it was kind of weird because there, as a missionary, I ran into like top of the company, number one top earner, like salespeople and marketers and entrepreneurs and business owners. And I became really good friends with them. And that kind of shaped kind of my decision to get into the industry that I decided to get into. Yeah.
So you leave LA, you had all that experience, you do it a little more growing up, you came back home to Kona, hoping to make your way. You knew that, you know, same for me, when I went past the chemistry class, my GPA went down. So I think you realized that, you know, community college wasn't going to be the thing anymore. So you're like, okay, I know I've got enough to where you've got something about you that you can communicate and connect. Well, you know, how did you came home and you said, how did you finally decide, okay, this is the path?
So I came back home. Before I came home, it was like a week before I came home from my mission. And it was crazy because from the very first, so we go into the thing called the Missionary Training Center, right? And so from the very first, like you get into the Missionary Training Center and there's like 30 or 40 of you missionaries all in the class. And then they start choosing and they start deciding who's going to be like the leader. We call them a district leader in that training center over that. Ever since the training center, all through my mission, I was always in leadership. Right. The only time I wasn't in leadership was like when I was actually getting trained by my trainer. He was this big dude. He looked like Sammy Sosa. He was like from the Dominican Republic. His name was Elder Fernandez, right? Angel Fernandez. And he actually taught me Spanish. And we were English speaking missionaries, but after one night, after one night of walking on the streets of LA, I said, dude, what are we doing speaking English out here? And no one's speaking English. And he goes, so that's why I started picking up Spanish and how I started learning. And I got to a point where I forgot a lot of it now, but I got to a point, man, where I was holding some heavy conversations with Spanish people, Latin speaking. But anyhow, so
all this leadership brings you, then you realize that you have this gift of being able to stand up in front of people and sort of clarify the vision of things. So,
well, not really necessarily in front of people. I honestly, I kind of had that kick, because I grew up, my father was an MC of one of the largest luau shows here in Kona, up and down the coast. And he was kind of like, I looked at my dad and my mom. I watched them from a young age. I watched them on stage in front of just hundreds or even thousands of people. So to me, being on stage in front of people was just like, well, doesn't everyone do this, right? So
did they bring you up when you were coming up too? They brought you up on the stage, and
they would. By the time I was
family show.
By the time I was like in 8th grade, I was already like emceeing like large, like May Day ceremony type. I was like, by the 9th, 10th grade, I was already emceeing like big like parades here in Kona, and pageants and things like that. So yeah, it was it certainly, but the leadership thing for me was like, man, I guess, I really liked the leadership facts. So when I get home, I said to myself, man, I like, number one, I love talking to people. Number two, I loved marketing. I loved and I learned the difference early on. And so that's kind of, I said to myself, like a week or so before I got home, I wrote down that I wanted to be a top producer in a marketing company. And I wanted to get into sales no matter what. I was going to sell something when I got home. So I got home and I got into the timeshare industry. And I also got into the home-based business marketing arena. And that's kind of at 21 years old. That's how I got started.
And that was able to, keep your family, as you grew, and you're now in somewhere in the not quite middle age, but working your way up, and you have again, an 18-year-old son, that's matured some in the things of the world. But it's caused you to have to travel a little bit. Now, to explain about that, as in sales and marketing, you're in front of different people, and then now with the pandemic too, how have things changed from before, when it was, a lot of people engagement, big crowds, rooms, maybe that you're working and teaching and selling and teaching folks how to sell. But then now with the pandemic and Zoom, how has it changed for you over this last, bit of time?
Honestly, it not much. I mean, look at what we're doing right now, on Zoom. I do Zooms all the time now. I am I'm very comfortable working from home. So that's my industry. The traveling thing was a little bit of a headache, but it kind of wasn't. I actually liked it because when I was traveling, the airplanes were pretty empty, pretty regularly. Right. And the flights were considerably cheaper. Everything was cheaper, hotel rooms, cars, but, I nothing really changed that much actually in my line of work, in my industry. In fact, it boosted because a lot of people were at home, and they just needed to learn how to make some extra money or quick, because they realized that the unemployment system here just wasn't happening. Right. And so in the very beginning of the pandemic, I saw my business just go boom. Right. And I had several projects and all three of them were just banging. So the home-based business industry, it just took off because everyone was home and everyone wanted to learn everyone wanted to make money. Right. So,
trying to figure out, how to use this technology for them. People, there was a lot of folks that started businesses during this time because they have something and we couldn't go out anymore. So we had, this is the only way that we could engage commerce wise. And so, so there's this,
I think that the key, man, I think that the key was, and I'm sure you could say this too, even with your business and, how you even started this podcast and stuff, is and you just got to learn how to adapt.
Mhm.
You know, I think that people get too, and, you know, I'm born and raised in Hawaii, and one of the biggest things that I see a lot of my friends and acquaintances here, we call it island fever, right? We just get super comfortable, right? We get a lot of it, and not just in Hawaii, man. I mean, you know, we're on permanent vacation, a lot of us here in Hawaii, right? And we're just we're super laid back,
feels like it, but yeah.
super hang loose. A lot of people think that, but no, we're actually stressed out and crazy, going crazy over here in Hawaii, right? Just to make ends meet. But you just got to learn how to adapt. You got to learn how to roll. You got to learn how to change. You know, I think in the world of business, though, it's either you changed or you died, right? And it was speaking of business, right? Like you just had to change with the times. And I think that those who were blessed and fortunate enough to have the guts to change and to shift, they did well. And then those who didn't, and honestly, and what we're sitting in July, right, of 2021, I think that the worst is even yet to come now. So a lot of people thought, okay, all right, we got to shift and move during the pandemic. I think that was the precursor for what's to come now. Right.
Yeah, there's still more. Yeah, there was a great influx of money that came in, you know, that resources from the government, and people are still adjusting and still settling, because that, you know, the government doesn't have endless amounts of money, I guess, so we have to build it on commerce. So who's got the
100%.
money? And yeah, so how do we engage those folks and that? So coming from Hawaii, are you mostly engaging folks in Hawaii, or you're national, international, you know, as you
know, man, I'm so in my line of business, in you know, in my style of marketing, network marketing, in one of the arenas that I'm in, I started off locally, and I failed miserably, you know, for 9 years. In fact, I started when I was 21. I didn't make a check till I was 29. You know, but I learned about it. So at 26, my wife and I, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, got into a restaurant business, a bakery deli. But and so that took up a lot of time right there. But, you know, I never lost the dream. I said, you know, okay, here's a business. I look at everything like business like here's a project that we're going to, this is our 5-year project. That was kind of the buzz. Well, it went on 11 years. And so, you know, that's a whole nother story. But before that, a couple of years before that, I started studying online marketing and offline marketing. I started studying under the likes of Dan Kennedy, who is basically the godfather of direct marketing. And then I started learning direct response, and I started learning all kinds of things. And it's crazy because I barely passed high school, right? I passed by the skin of my teeth. But it's interesting because on my mission, I just grew this crazy appetite to just grab information and to read. And I just couldn't get enough knowledge. I just couldn't get enough. It's almost like the 13,000 hours in school that I wasted, right? All of a sudden, like I just boom, it turned on for me, right?
Maybe you realized, okay, now I need this because I want something, and now there's a bit of information I need. Now I know, because you have a purpose now, you're driven. So maybe grabbing that is much easier than when you're in high school. You're like, I don't know. But once you find your purpose, we've talked to some folks in the podcast before. Once you really identify your purpose, things start to kind of fall in line behind them.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, that was the thing, is that I, so really, I think around 2001, I read, or was it 2002? I read a book called Think and Grow Rich, or not Think, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was like a junior in high school. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and it was inspiring because that guy grew up literally on this island, right? And it's crazy because I know who his rich dad is, but I read that book. And then one of my early mentors said, Elias, if you're dead broke and you want to create wealth the fastest way, if you want to get wealthy, if you want to make money and you got to make money quick, learn how to sell. Because I'll tell you what, if you can sell, that is the one skill that will pay you the most, the fastest. And I was like, really? So I was only 21 when I got that. So I made it a mission of mine to learn how to sell, to learn how to present. And you know, I hear people all the time, oh, yeah, you could sell ice to Eskimos. Why would I want to sell ice to Eskimos? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they don't need it. You know, you want to learn. So I learned marketing. I learned how to sell. I learned. And so those skills, that's really, truly what I zeroed in on. And it finally paid off. We got into the restaurant. I took a hold of the marketing, and we just boom. And it was a very successful run. But it's super, super tough. I think one of the hardest things for us, one of the most challenging things was just getting people to stay working for us, right? I mean,
well, that's the biggest thing now too, is
atrocious.
the hell, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is that, a family business, sometimes you make the most, you can manage the overhead by, having your own family doing it, but then you're married to it and nobody sleeps ever, especially a bakery, when it's time to make the donuts. So then you got to hire folks, and that's a whole nother level of headache. And then do they show up? Do they not show up? I mean,
Exactly.
if the donuts aren't there, the people don't come back, right?
Exactly. 100%. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, family run business, so great, such a romantic notion. No, it's not. Try and call in sick when you got a family business. They're gonna call it, you ain't sick, get out of bed right now, let's go.
Yeah, you got one leg and you're coughing half your lung out, you're still going to work because
right,
it doesn't pay the bills.
It was tough, man. It was tough. The labor here, was just super loose at that time. And then the rent was just ridiculous. And then when our rent just about doubled, we were like, yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. We're good. Because at that time we were like, okay, hold on, 5-year project. We're on like year number 11. Like, what are we doing? And so it was almost like it became a labor of love. And then sometimes you kind of need that little bit of a shake, a little bit of that jolt, right? To get out of that, to help you make up your mind a lot easier. Right. And that's what made it easy for us.
Sure. Yeah. There's some things, that are external to yourself that says, okay, if you've been evaluating it maybe for a year or something like that, but then when something like that happens, you kind of have to make the choice. Okay, either we are in or we're out, and so then go ahead.
Yeah. Thank goodness that, because by the time we shut our doors, I'd love to say we sold the business and all that. No, we didn't. We just shut the doors. Right. But I would, thank goodness, we're very fortunate that in finally, 2001, right, I start my marketing business. I started doing all this kind of stuff. It didn't pay me a single cent. Finally paid off in 2009. And I started to learn what it really took to become a professional in my industry.
Sure.
So by the time it was time to shut down the doors, we weren't like destitute. We weren't like, holy smokes, you know what I mean? Like, so we could actually
planning a little bit of a sort of an escape, or sort of a number two option B, if this doesn't, well, your 5 years was kind of up, and then you said, okay, now what's happening?
Yeah. Well, so we opened it up in 2006, and then right about like 2000, when I started hitting it big, and I started need to travel and stuff a lot, and I started, I had to do presentation all over and training. At that point, we got more family involved into the business, and I kind of plucked myself out of the day-to-day stuff. And I was pretty much like not even in there already at that point. My wife was, but not me. I was traveling around, and I was getting our other business cracking. And so by the time we shut the doors, it was a lot easier financially for us. We were able to, be at peace with that decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, again, sometimes you don't see the immediate benefits of all of your, again, you said from 21 you started, you didn't see your first check for 9 years. You were learning that whole time, and then you do a business and started to learn how to apply marketing within the business there. And then after that, now as things are starting to come together, you're starting to see sort of how things work in the big world, and how you can apply yourself. When did you start exerting yourself where you felt like on a different level? What made you go like, okay, I can actually go bigger than I ever thought I could? Or again, I'm not trying to look for some quick rich, there's no quick, get rich quick scheme out there. It takes work, but what says, I think we can motivate lots of people to get involved here.
So your question is like, when did I say to myself, like, oh man, I can actually do this thing. Like I can
make a living and comfortable. And yeah, is this a feasible long-term, career for me?
It's crazy, dude, because like I said, from 21 years old, my wife was my biggest fan. She believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. And it was crazy because she would look at me sometimes and she would be like, okay, so how's it going? I'm like,
your plan.
Honey, it's not going so good. You know what I mean? She's like, that's okay. It'll I don't know. Should I do? She's like, well, what else you got? What else do we, Elias, just, put in the time. And I wish I would have read Outliers, that book. If you haven't, you should read it, right? Malcolm Gladwell. And they talk about, the 10,000 hours that, you put in 10,000 hours, you become a pro at anything, right? Pretty much. You become an expert in that field. And man, I think, I was a late bloomer. I probably put in 11,000. But she believed in me. And I still remember it was, I want to say it was right around January, February of 2009 or something like that, that we were in our living room. And we were just like the month before, we were so strapped, bro. We were so like, I was negative $2,000 in my bank, to be exact, negative $1,800 in my bank account. And I remember telling my wife, man, it seems like we're always just right behind the 8 ball financially. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it's like, man, if we had $500 extra a month, man, what would that do? You know what that would do? Oh my gosh, at that point, I couldn't even see myself making 500. So my friend calls me up and he says, Elias, I think it's about time for you to get back into this industry. And I think it's about time for you I got something for you. And I said, bro, what are you talking about? You're a broke school teacher. What do you mean? He's like, Elias, I think I see this. And we went on and we created the fastest growing organization in that company. I became the youngest senior executive in that company. I took a group, I opened up countries like Japan. I opened up countries in Asia, the Philippines, Tahiti. And we had tens of thousands of people in our organization. And it seemed like it happened overnight. But to some people would be. But they didn't see the 9 years of struggle before that. Right. You know what I mean? They didn't see the lonely nights where nobody wanted to follow me. They didn't see my friends laughing at me. Oh, Eli, so how's that thing, bro? Oh, okay. I got you, man. I got you. So it didn't seem like it was an overnight success, but I do remember, and to answer your question, we were sitting in our living room. I see it just like it was yesterday. We're sitting on our couch, and I showed her my back office, and it showed us our commission report. And it showed us that it showed that I'd made $10,000 that week. And just a month or so before, I was just dreaming about like $500 extra a month. That's all we needed to do. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. Like I was getting sick. I couldn't even sleep at night because I was so financially drained. And I was just so strung out. Like I was just so stressed out financially. And here I am making 10 grand a week. And I told her, I don't know. I said, I hope this is real. She's like, you better go cash that check right now.
We got bills.
But it's at that point I said, you know what? I think we can do this. I'm pretty sure we can. And that was about 4 companies ago, and I've been able to hit top ranks and top earner positions and grow teams in the tens of thousands, starting from scratch every single time. And I've been able to grow internationally throughout, domestically throughout the U.S. Of course, here in Hawaii, I've been able to successfully launch a couple of things here in Hawaii, a couple of companies here in Hawaii, and so it paid off. But it was scary, bro. Cars got repossessed, electricity got turned off. Water got turned off, landlord knocking on the door, like, you guys got a van you can sleep in, or you going to pay some rent? You know what I mean? Couldn't afford to send my daughter to preschool. I had to kind of sneak her in through the door, man, the life that I was living, the life and throughout my years, even as, doing really well, you have those moments, man, where you have those dips, and it's always, and when you don't struggle with one thing, you struggle with another, right? Sure. And then you got that, like for me, making money at first, making money was the problem. And then when I got making the money, then the other problem was, okay, how do we save more money? You know what I mean? And then when you do that, like, okay, now now the next problem is how do you invest more money and, strategically
make it work for itself.
Right. So, things will always come up, bro. Things will always come up. Right.
So were there times in those ups and downs in those valleys, for a Hawaii person, was there ever a thought, hey, it's just too expensive over here. Maybe we should move to the mainland? And there's a lot of people that now. Oh yeah. I mean, so it's tough, bro. Like, you're an entrepreneur, I mean, and for those of you guys who are listening to this, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, man, Hawaii is not the friendliest place for small business owners. It's just, and I'm not going to go political on this thing, but I'll tell you now, man, it's tough, and for someone who's been in business all these years, it's crazy. It's crazy to, like, okay, look. I look and see, okay, what I made last year, right? If I had just moved, okay, to, let's just say, Nevada or Texas, right? How much money I would have saved or kept in my pocket, kept in my bank accounts, I could reinvest, blows my mind. However, there's trade-offs.
the trade-off. Hey,
Right.
I'm 5 minutes away from my favorite surf spot. I'm surfing every day in 5 minutes. I
Right.
mean, so we're actually looking at branching out, getting a place part-time, in the mainland, and then of
Mhm.
course having a place over here in Kona. So bouncing back and forth.
Sure.
But there are many times. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, with the gas prices the way it is, and it's just going to get higher and higher with inflation, all the cost of groceries, the cost of labor,
up.
wood. Oh my gosh. So it at some point you say to yourself, okay, whoa, I mean, wow. I
Mhm.
mean, hey, maybe we would save, more money by, and so, and plus our kids are getting older now. And, I don't want to say we're done raising our family, but we've raised them well. They like it, and now it's we feel that there's a lot of opportunity for them outside of here, and of course their
Sure.
roots will always be back here. So we're gonna be, we'll probably bounce back and forth and stuff like
Right.
that. So we travel a lot anyway, so yeah, no biggie. But yeah, Hawaii is tough, man. Hawaii's tough for younger families, especially as an entrepreneur. Oh man, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah. And especially on the